Why do good people commit evil acts? Why do normal, everyday individuals, people just like you and me, suddenly find themselves doing things they once believed were unthinkable? Imagine waking up one day and everything you thought you knew about morality, good and evil, and human nature gets flipped upside down. What if I told you that under the right conditions, even the kindest person you know could become a monster? History has proven this over and over again. Nazi Germany, the Rwandan genocide, the Stanford Prison Experiment. But what if the darkness isn't just out there in the world? What if it exists in all of us, just waiting for the right moment to emerge? In this video, we're diving deep into Philip Zimbardo's groundbreaking book, The Lucifer Effect, a book that unpacks the terrifying truth about human nature. You'll learn why good people do bad things, how power and authority can corrupt anyone, and most importantly, how you can protect yourself from falling into the trap of moral corruption. What you're about to hear isn't just another psychology experiment. This is a wake-up call. Zimbardo, a world-renowned psychologist, conducted one of the most infamous experiments in history, the Stanford Prison Experiment. What started as a 2-week simulation in 1971 quickly spiraled into chaos, exposing the darkest corners of human behavior. The results? Shocking. The lessons? Even more terrifying. This isn't just about past events, it's about what's happening around us every day. From abusive bosses to toxic relationships, from corrupt governments to online mobs, this book exposes the psychological forces that turn good people into villains. But here's the real question. Are you immune to it? Let's find out. The Stanford Prison Experiment. Let's start with a true story. July 14th, 1971. A group of college students walks into the basement of Stanford University. Some are given the role of prison guards, others the role of prisoners. It's just an experiment, right? A harmless simulation. Wrong. Within hours, the guards, ordinary young men just like anyone else, start abusing their power. They humiliate the prisoners, strip them of their dignity, force them to perform degrading acts. The prisoners, some break down mentally, others rebel. The atmosphere turns into a real-life nightmare. What's worse? These weren't criminals. They were just students who walked in normal and walked out traumatized. Why? Because the environment dictated their behavior. The power dynamics, the uniforms, the isolation, all of it combined to turn normal people into something else. The experiment was supposed to last 2 weeks. It was shut down after just 6 days. But here's the real question. If you were in that experiment, which side would you have been on? The psychological traps that turn. Good people evil. Zimbardo explains that people don't just wake up one day and decide to be evil. It happens gradually. Here's how. 1. Dehumanization, the first step to evil. When people stop seeing others as human, morality fades. History's darkest chapters, slavery, genocide, war crimes, did not happen overnight. They started with a psychological shift, making the enemy seem less than human. This process is not just historical, it happens today in subtle and dangerous ways. It's why propaganda portrays opposing groups as vermin, criminals, or invaders. It's why soldiers in war zones are sometimes trained to use dehumanizing slurs for the enemy, because it numbs the conscience. In everyday life, dehumanization fuels toxic relationships and workplace abuse. A boss who sees employees as lazy rather than struggling individuals may justify overworking them. A manipulative partner who views their significant other as weak rather than emotionally vulnerable may rationalize controlling behavior. Even in the digital world, dehumanization runs rampant. Online mobs target individuals with hate because, behind a screen, a person becomes just a profile picture, stripped of their emotions, struggles, and complexity. Once you stop seeing someone as human, hurting them becomes easier, even logical. The Lucifer Effect reveals how ordinary people, under the right conditions, can fall into this trap. The more we categorize people as them instead of us, the closer we get to darkness. The power of authority, why we obey without question. Ever heard of the Milgram experiment? A regular person was told to shock another human being whenever they got a question wrong. The voltage increased, the screams of pain got louder, but they kept going, just because an authority figure in a lab coat told them to. The lesson? Most people will do what they're told, even if it goes against their morals. History proves it. Nazi soldiers said they were just following orders. Abusive bosses justify their actions by claiming, "It's just business." Are you blindly following authority, or are you questioning it? Third group mentality, how ordinary people commit crimes. Together, ever noticed how people in groups behave differently than they do alone? A normally kind and rational person might shout insults at a stranger during a protest, while an otherwise decent teenager might join in cyberbullying someone they don't even know. Why does this happen? Because in a group, individual responsibility dissolves. This psychological phenomenon, known as de-individuation, makes people feel anonymous and less accountable for their actions. They take cues from the crowd rather than their moral compass. This is why peaceful demonstrations can suddenly erupt into violent riots, why online hate campaigns spiral out of control, and why entire communities can turn against a single scapegoat. Think of historical atrocities, the Holocaust, the Rwandan genocide, or the Stanford Prison Experiment, which Philip Zimbardo himself conducted. In each case, ordinary people were swept into acts of cruelty they likely would have never committed alone. The group became a psychological shield, diffusing responsibility. The digital world amplifies this effect even further. Social media mobs unite around outrage, canceling people with a few clicks, often without knowing the full story. The dopamine rush of being part of something bigger makes it easy to ignore the consequences. So ask yourself, are you thinking for yourself, or are you just following the crowd? The difference between morality and mob mentality is often just a moment of hesitation. 1 second of critical thinking could be the line between right and wrong. How to protect yourself from the Lucifer Effect. If good people can turn evil, how do we make sure we stay good? 1. Awareness is your first line of defense. Now that you know these psychological traps exist, you can recognize them before they take control. The moment you feel yourself justifying cruelty, obeying blindly, or going along with the crowd, step back. 2. Take responsibility for your actions. The excuse of everyone else is doing it doesn't work. Own your decisions. Your morals are yours. 3. Challenge authority when necessary. Not all leaders deserve obedience. The difference between a hero and a villain is the courage to question orders when they feel wrong. 4. See the humanity in others. Never let labels strip someone of their identity. The moment you stop seeing someone as a person is the moment you open the door to evil. So, now you know the truth. Good people can turn evil, not because they're born bad, but because power, authority, and group influence can warp human nature. But there's one final chilling question left to ask. If you were placed in the Stanford Prison Experiment, would you have become a monster too? The real answer? You'll never truly know until the moment comes. But now, at least, you're prepared. Subscribe if you want to uncover more hidden truths about psychology, persuasion, and power.